What's going on, Bottom Line viewers? It's Mitch here of the Bottom Line View, back with a NHL topic video. This is going to be the top 5 Stanley Cup contenders for the 2017 NHL season. I'm going to start off by just pointing out that you guys can check out our channel and check out Fitty Trent's content. He's done 2 videos, including 2 videos about the trade deadline. So check out those videos. They will be in the description below. Definitely check it out. And we're also going to be bringing back the Puck It Up podcast on Saturdays. Myself and Trent talking about the latest news and rumors in the NHL. So thanks guys for checking it out and enjoy the video. All right, these are the top 5 Stanley Cup contenders for the 2017 NHL season. Starting off with the honorable mentions. I want to start off with the honorable mentions because there were 2 other teams that came to my mind when I was talking about the top 5, so I was around a top 7. But the 2 honorable mentions for me are the New York Rangers and the San Jose Sharks. The San Jose Sharks have proved that they can make it there, but they can never really win it. They have the players, they have the Pavelskis, they have the Burns. They even have a pretty good goalie now in Jones. But to me, I just think their older legs in the forward core are going to wear down when it comes to 2 years in a row trying to make that run for the Stanley Cup. It's not like the NFL or, even the NBA to a certain extent. The NHL playoffs is totally different. It's physical. It's 7-game series after 7-game series. And there's nothing like it, which is why we love it so much. And for the San Jose Sharks, I think it's just going to be too much to overcome to accomplish 2 years in a row. For the New York Rangers, they're just a team that I don't think has any superstars at any area of their team. Sure, they have Ryan McDonough on defense and Henrik Lundqvist at goalie, but they're also a team that hasn't really been able to overcome past failures in the playoffs. And I just think this isn't the best team they've ever had. I mean, they've had better defensive cores. They've had better offensive cores. I think Vigneault is doing a very excellent job with the young players on offense in their forwards. Vesey, Grabner, players like that are playing very well for them. I just don't see them having the studs to match up against the Capitals, the Penguins, and those sort of teams in the Eastern Conference. But I think the Rangers and the Sharks should be 2 teams that you should keep your eye on as well. We move on to number 5, the 5th contender for the Stanley Cup. All these teams, I think, can win the Stanley Cup, and these are the things that they're going to have to accomplish, and these are the things that might hold them back. So for the Montreal Canadiens, I think they are the 5th contender. The reason being is they have a goalie that can get hot and can carry a team. They have Carey Price. He's the best goalie in hockey, even though he's not played the best this season. I think that also goes to a different goalie on the list, but I think that Carey Price has been excellent his whole career, and he's the best goalie in the NHL. So Montreal can ride him to a championship. They have the potential to do that with some defensive scoring that they've gotten this year. One of the key differences between the team last year and the team this year, they've had some depth in scoring, and they've also been provided with some scoring from their defense. Shea Weber, Petrie, Markov, of all guys that have contributed in points. 3 guys on their defense over 20 points, which is pretty impressive. Not even the Penguins and the Capitals have that, so that's very solid for the Canadiens. They have a lot of under-the-radar players. Alexander Radulov is a guy that everybody should be talking about. He has 42 points this season, but for some reason he's still underrated to most fans in the NHL. Provided to be a great signing in the offseason for the Canadiens and has been one of their better players. I think something that can hold them back is that they don't have that 1 or 2 studs that can play off each other and can carry a team and can just score every game and, be the number 1 guy for an offense and for a team. They do have Pacioretty, who's playing very well this season and has played well in the past, but he doesn't scream superstar to me, and he doesn't scream, Stanley Cup hero to me either. He's a very solid and good upper echelon player, but I don't think he's a superstar. Then we go to some guys that I think are a positive for them, which is they're guys that are kind of under the radar. This is just a team that's under the radar. You have Deneau, who's playing well, a number of other guys that nobody really expected to play very well. I don't think Gallagher is playing particularly well, but I think he can pick it up, and he provides a style of play that is good in the playoffs. And I think this team is just built with some solid scoring up front. They might need a little bit more at the trade deadline. And on defense, I think, if they can get some great goaltending and they can still score from the defense, they'll have a shot at the Stanley Cup. At number 4, I have the Minnesota Wild. The Minnesota Wild is a team that has a great goaltender. Devin Dubnyk has been playing the best hockey for any goalie in the NHL in the 2016-2017 NHL season. If he continues that, they have a very large chance of making it to the Stanley Cup and potentially winning it. So they, again, like the Canadiens, have the potential to ride a hot goalie all the way to the finals. But unlike the Canadiens, I think they're better built for this season's playoffs. They have very good, just a wealth of scoring. They have 5 players over 40 points. They have just a lot of different players that are contributing. Granlund has having a breakout season for them. Niederreiter has really come out of nowhere and played very well. He stepped his game up from a 3rd or 4th liner to now a 1st or 2nd line player. You look at Eric Stahl, who has turned his career around and played very excellent for Minnesota. So these are a number of players that they just kind of got great signings in the offseason, and they've contributed to Minnesota's style of play, which is tough, hard-nosed, built for success in the playoffs. And with this goaltending and with this wealth of scoring and Ryan Suter, who can shut guys down, I'm excited to see what Minnesota can do for the first time in a while, because they were in the playoffs, in and out of the playoffs for the last few years, but they've never really been a contender. This is a season where they're going to be a contender. This is a season where they're going to have the pressure. Can they live up to that pressure, or will they shy under the big lights? So that's a question for Minnesota, but I think Minnesota is a solid team that can make it all the way. At number 3, I have my favorite for the Western Conference Finals, or the Western Conference in general, Chicago Blackhawks. Of course, you got to go with Chicago. They have a number of leaders on the team, they have a number of studs, and they have the experience to make it all the way. Of course, you have Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews, Duncan Keith, Brent Seabrook. But I think the thing about this team individually, then compared to last year, where I thought last year they struggled when it came to depth on defense and depth in the forwards. I'm not so sure about their depth on defense. They have some guys there. Even Brian Campbell has stepped up this season and has provided to be a good offseason signing for them and has helped on that second pairing. But when it comes to their forwards, they have 2 top-line firepower lines. But when it comes to their 3rd and 4th line, that might be the difference from winning and losing the Stanley Cup. So that would be my question for the Blackhawks, because I know they have the studs. I know Kane will step up. I know Toews will step up. I know Keith, who's been excellent this season, will step up. And Seabrook will play well, who's a playoff performer. Anisimov, has been playing great. Panarin has been playing awesome. House has been relatively healthy and playing well. So, there's a number of players that they have in their top 2 lines that are great, and they're all-stars and everything. But it depends on that 3rd, 4th line for the Blackhawks, which provided them such success in their past runs. So for Chicago, I have them at number 3 and the favorite in the Western Conference. At number 2, I have the Washington Capitals. The Washington Capitals are a balanced roster with a bunch of studs. Backstrom is awesome. Ovechkin is awesome. Oshie is awesome. Carlson is great. Holtby is a phenomenal goalie. So they have a lot of guys, and that's including 5 guys with over 40 points on their roster, which is very impressive. Not only do Ovechkin score and Backstrom score, but they have a lot of goal scoring. I think the thing about Washington that scares me is not only have they come up small in the big moments in the past, and they don't really play their best when it comes to playoff hockey. I think a lot of that is contributed to because they play so well at such a high level in the regular season that they're riding on such a high that when they get to the playoffs and they face a team that's as good as them or maybe a little bit less than them or maybe even better than them, they don't play above their level that they're playing in the regular season. They ride this one, stroke the whole time, and they never get to that next level. So for me, Washington this season is all about getting that next level. Can they play in that playoff hockey mode, which is what we saw from Pittsburgh last year? They just went on a run at the end of the season, and they carried that momentum into the playoffs, and they were unstoppable, including Washington, who couldn't stop them. So this season, it's all about that. A couple other things I like about Washington is that on the opposite side of things. Can they take their experience from the past and can they flip it on their head? Can Ovechkin and Backstrom and the leaders of the past and the leaders of the team flip that experience on its head and use it to their advantage? Also, they have top-notch goaltending. They have top-notch special teams, and they have the least amount of goals allowed in the NHL. So a good way to win playoff games is to win them without giving up any goals, of course, and they're very good at defending. So Washington is a team that you have to look out for, and they're one of the biggest contenders for the Stanley Cup. At number 1, I'm sticking with Pittsburgh. Last season they won the Stanley Cup. This season, myself and Trent picked them to win again, or at least represent the conference. And I just think, to me, the difference between the Penguins, the Capitals, and the Blackhawks is the Penguins have so many different guys that can score. They're the highest scoring team in the league. They have 3 guys that are over 50 points, which is the best by far. They have Kessel, Malkin, and Crosby, all over 50 points. All have been injured at different points in the season. They have Letang and Schultz on defense, who are consistent scorers. They have Schultz is, by the way, playing awesome. And then you have guys like Mata on defense, and those guys can score. But they also have role players like Dumoulin and Cole, and Kuhnhackels when he's in the lineup, and Rust, and all these different guys like Cullen. Different defensive guys that are great in their role and great at special teams. But you surround that with young, high-flying players like Connor Sheary, Brian Rust, and all these different really fast players. They have depth with young legs, which I think is a key, because Pittsburgh is playing with this team that is filled with such depth, but it's also filled with quality depth, because it's quality depth with players that are being underpaid. Connor Sheary is a guy that has been injured as of late, but is a goal scorer and is a playmaker, but is being paid like nothing because he's so young. Brian Rust is a player that's been playing consistently on the second line. They've even had contributions from their AHL team this year that has helped their depth. So they have a number of different young leg players and very fast players, which, again, their speed was the biggest difference between them and the Sharks in the finals, and their depth scoring is the biggest thing for me. They also have the experience with Crosby and Malkin and Letang and Fleury, even, like these guys that have all been there, done that, and they have great leadership with Crosby. They have great studs with Crosby and Malkin, Kessel. I just think they have everything that makes a champion, and they'll probably make a couple moves at the deadline to help shore up some areas. But I think right now you have to kind of maintain that Pittsburgh is the favorite to win the Cup. Then you go Washington, who is the team that, if Pittsburgh is going to be beaten at Eastern Conference, it's probably going to be by them. Then you go Chicago on the other side with Minnesota, and those are the 2 Western teams. I think Montreal is kind of a dark horse in the Eastern Conference because they'll probably have the easier road. And then you have New York and San Jose, who are 2 under-the-radar teams going into the playoffs as well. So those are my 5 Stanley Cup contenders plus 2 honorable mentions. From Mitch of TheBottomLineView, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button and subscribe for more NHL content. Again, check out Fitty Trent's video in the description box below if you want to know what your team is going to get at the trade deadline. Thanks, guys, for watching, and peace out.